Mitsuru and Kokoro have been left behind on Earth to look after the baby in Zero 2. Mitsuru says that it is his responsibility to stay behind and be with Kokoro, which is all the justification you get on this subject. I hope you enjoyed how much time they dedicated to this stupid ass subplot. Squad 13 is now in space using the fucking mothership the Klaxosaurs left behind. For some reason, the Klaxosaurs knew that Squad 13 would take the ship and somehow managed to produce equipment for them that would allow them to fight in space. They knew this because they read the script. Alpha must have lended them his copy. Nana and Hachi are also here, but do absolutely nothing for the entire episode, begging the question of why they even bothered coming when Franxx asked them to stay behind on Earth and look after the children. Hiro is piloting with 9 Alpha, who exposits out loud that Hiro can pilot with him because the 9s can be in both positions. Hiro says it's familiar, and Alpha reveals that he and the rest of the 9s are clones of Zero 2, despite looking nothing like her. And of course, Franxx once again trips over its own failings in this scene, as it has been previously implied that compatibility is based off the relationships between the pilots and can change depending on what's happening. Instead, Franxx retcons this core plot element so Hiro can pilot with somebody else for 2 minutes. It's genetics all along, which also retroactively destroys the plot of the whole fucking show. But really, what's new at this point? There's a really long pointless scene of Nana and Hachi. Goro apologizes for hitting Hiro because fuck you. Suddenly, they reach the Verm fleet and engage it in battle. This episode is easily one of the ugliest in the whole show. Characters and mechs slide across the screen without moving. The direction has gotten even worse than the last episode somehow, with several terrible looking shots included, and the space battle is as flaccid as an 89-year-old man watching Moe-tan, with far too little explosions going on in the background throughout. Franxx themselves never take part in any extended melee combat, being given ranged weapons that are easier to animate. I can only speculate that this is because Trigger guys are not working on this show anymore by now. Hiro and Alpha break through the Verm line and reach Strelazia, but before they can get inside the conveniently placed lower entrance, they're ambushed by a large Verm thing. After about 2 seconds of trying to fight it, Alpha immediately gives up and ejects Hiro into Strelazia. He hacks out some tired dialogue about learning to be human, despite literally every interaction involving him since the start being nothing but sneering antagonism, and he has collectively about 2 fucking seconds of screen time in the whole show. He self-destructs and destroys the Verm thing. Wow, who fucking cares? I'm so glad we spent so much time building up this character. Hiro gets inside the cockpit and has Zero 2 consume him. He awakens inside Zero 2's mind, which is represented by the picture book they drew. I just want to add, this is like the 5th fucking time this show's done this. Stupid fucking merging minds bullshit. Hiro asks Zero 2 why she left him, which is a good fucking question that is not answered properly. Zero 2 says that she wanted him to remain human despite being very pleased with his new horns before. Some more of the 9s die, Nana and Hachi piece the fuck out. We have that old A1 classic as we have a series of still frames instead of actual animation. Kokoro and Mitsuru have a scene. They end up back together. Nana and a few parasites are stood outside for some reason. We're straight out of animation budget. Hiro is fighting against Zero 2's terrible character writing by transforming into the king from the book, in a piece of imagery that is more hilarious than emotionally resonant. The two of them reunite after Hiro hits her with the old no you technique. Zero 2's body on Earth turns to stone for some reason. With Hiro and Zero 2 reunited, the star entity transforms into a giant, half-naked, busty Zero 2, that will inevitably be sold for a high premium later. It makes no sense. None? Did they even plan for this? Does the star entity have the ability to change its fucking appearance? Did the Klaxosaurs use the script again and plan for this to happen the entire time? Speaking of which, none of the squad members even react to this and talk with Zero 2 like they expected the star entity to turn into a giant half-naked version of her. There's quite a lot to be said about the imagery of this particular scene that we'll get into more later when we talk about what Franxx is actually meant to be about. But for now, just keep in mind that she's wearing a giant fucking wedding dress. For some reason, the Klaxosaurs built a warp gate that could only be accessed on Mars, which raises many questions about where the Klaxosaurs lived before the war, or how Verm got to Earth on their own, but asking Franxx for basic details is long past the realm of possibility. For some reason, 02 knows exactly what it is and who'd built it. The Klaxosaurs have a bomb which looks like a bouquet, and Hero and 02 are the only ones who can travel through the warp gate to use it on the Verm base, which makes it a very shitty warp gate. Does that mean the Klaxosaurs can't use it either? Why did they build this? Did they know in advance that this was going to happen? Here I am asking obvious questions again in search for answers that we never get. I can't really say anything else about this, it's fucking stupid. Franxx has jumped the shark thematically, so I guess it only makes sense for it to jump the shark aesthetically as well. Thank God we're nearly done. For some odd reason, the warp gate that the Klaxosaurs built spit 02 and Hero out billions of miles away from their actual intended target, meaning it was kind of pointless in the end. Hero wonders why he doesn't tire or grow hungry, and asks if he'll turn into a complete Klaxosaur. Additionally, Verm just has ships hanging around despite the battle being around Earth. They fight them off in some boring action scenes. Meanwhile, back on Earth, everybody is fawning over a pregnant Kokoro. The other Nana says that she'll set an example for all the other presumably underage children who need to get pregnant quick too. The rest of the squad find the wreckage of the old house, recovering the soil there to use for farming. Ikuno, who I still don't know if she's meant to be older or not, has gathered all the files she could find for a personal project. We have a brief scene with Kokoro and Mitsuru, who have basically gone back to where they used to be in their relationship originally, making the Mind Wipe storyline completely pointless. We time skip to 245 days after Hero and 02 left. Kokoro has given birth to Mitsuru's child. They recover all the people who were missing from Dr. Franxx's hidden Amazon warehouse. Naomi is also missing an arm, so I guess she was injured in the first episode? Who really gives a fuck? She's completely pointless. Goro randomly decides to leave and go explore the world, but kisses Ichigo before he goes, now sensing an opportunity to sweep in and get the runner-up prize now that Hero is gone. We time skip to 2 years after they've left. Despite their earlier conversation about not needing to eat or sleep, Hero is struggling to continue. Verm makes his contractually obligated appearance as they get closer to its homeworld. I would ask why an interstellar, interconnected intelligence needs a homeworld to begin with, but we're far past the point of this show even trying to make sense. Hringhorny appears again, and the show briefly pretends that it's of plot significance, but as far as I can tell, Hringhorny feels like something that was originally planned to do something much more important than it ended up being. I wonder why Verm bothered even stealing it from Earth in the end. Hero fucking dies and sinks into an imaginary lake of overdone death imagery. Verm has gently caressed his surface consciousness, which sounds like a psychic euphemism for touching bell ends, which pumped so much blood into Hero's dick that he died of sudden blood loss. Verm exposits about how 02 is a pure Klaxosaur crystallation, whatever that means, and that she's responsible even though Hero is a Klaxosaur himself now. Suddenly, the Verm fleet attacks with some eye-cuttingly bad chromatic aberration. 02 asks for help, which somehow telepathically sends her thoughts down to Earth via the statue. Kokoro and Mitsuru assemble the squad, who somehow deduce that they need to hold hands and reach out to Hero through the statue by sending him their fucking energy like they're in Dragon Ball. A process that eventually involves every single fucking person in the cast over multiple days, at which point Hero really should be long dead already. The power of love and friendship manages to revive Hero, and Hero and 02 have a last moment together. The two of them dash forwards and implant the bomb into the planet. They power up, which reveals a small golden version of Strelitzer inside the bigger one. What follows is a shot of it aping the Gainax pose, except not as good, because it's a shitty A1 anime. They activate the bomb, merging together in their last moments. Except Verm doesn't die, making the entire exercise completely pointless. The 02 statue disappears, the rest of the Klaxosaurs return to the Earth, and they rebuild society without utilizing magma energy. Every female character save for Ikuno and Miku have children. Futoshi reappears and reveals that Ikino researched a way to combat the parasite's accelerated aging, which I suppose is just something that happens no matter what now. Franxx couldn't even go this last episode without confusing this stupid age bullshit any further. What's especially bad about it is that it has absolutely zero relevance to anything that happens in this plot summary. I've genuinely tried to condense this show down to the things that really matter, and even including it as is, I don't think it belongs in the plot. It doesn't have any purpose, none of the characters except Ikuno get affected by it, and it's not utilized in any real way that makes it worth the time spent. The team gathers under the tree that grew where 02 died, except Ikuno, who, as the smelly, non-pregnant lesbian, gets to stay in the hospital instead, and reminisce about the lessons that Hero and 02 didn't teach them during this show. We see a time-lapse as the world develops around the tree. Eventually, two children meet there, who suspiciously look like Hero and 02, suggesting that they've been reincarnated, because why not? This show is basically running on fucking magic anyway. This entire closing epilogue relies heavily on manipulating your emotions, and not in a good way. A time skip is always an easy way to turn on the tears, and I'll admit that even I teared up a little bit. That just made me angry at it rather than sad or hopeful. It annoys me because it's undeserved, just like the Gynax pose earlier in the episode. The show doesn't deserve that kind of emotional reaction and has to use every cheap trick in the book to hit that emotional high. I saw some people say that this ending made them hopeful for the future, a future which is strikingly similar to the present we're experiencing now. We've returned to the status quo. Humans are mortal again and have children, the Klaxosaurs are gone, and they no longer need the Franxx to fight. And while from the show's perspective this is progress, as someone who loves science fiction, it's a misstep on top of many others. Franxx is too afraid to engage its own subject matter and world building. Nothing is ever presented as a decision with pros and cons. The future is too bright for us humans. Go back to having children and working on a farm.